I'm just actually going to put this straight on the fire like this, burn all the hair off, cut the meat and the skin. Cold temperatures, bad weather we had that day as well, high winds. By this stage, he'd spend a night out with me, he hadn't slept.
The true test is never the mountain you conquer, but the inner shadow you face when no one is watching. A man standing alone at the top of an icy precipice. The wind howls around him as the camera pulls back, revealing the insignificance of his silhouette against the vast white wilderness. This is Bear Grylls as the world knows him, fearless, unwavering, always in control. But behind this image, cultivated over decades, lies another story. A journey marked by silent pain, paralyzing fears, and moments of profound vulnerability that few have ever witnessed. Are you enjoying this story, Man vs. Wild, Bear Grylls? Then help the channel with your subscription. Look, 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you are part of that group, take the chance and subscribe now. It's free, and that way you'll keep receiving amazing stories from TV shows we still miss. Oh, and don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. The lights come on at the Discovery Channel studios. Smiles, handshakes, shouts of action. Bear Grylls prepares for another calculatedly dangerous scene in his survival show. But his eyes tell a different story. What the public never knew is that minutes earlier, hidden in his trailer, Bear had suffered a devastating panic attack. His hands were shaking uncontrollably as he tried to steady his breathing. "I've never told this before," he confesses in an exclusive recording. "But there were days when I had to drag myself out of the trailer, literally crawl across the floor because my entire body would lock up with fear." The man millions admire for his courage faced, away from the cameras, internal battles far more intense than any wilderness challenge. Young Edward Michael Grylls grew up in the shadow of an imposing family legacy. His father, Sir Michael Grylls, a British conservative politician, projected monumental expectations onto his son. The silent corridors of the mansion where he grew up on the Isle of Wight echoed with the unspoken pressure to prove himself worthy of the name he carried. "My father never needed to explicitly say what he expected of me. His look when I failed at something was enough. That heavy silence that said more than 1,000 words of disappointment," Bear reveals in a personal diary never before shared. The turbulent waters of the ocean violently beat against the hull of the small fishing boat, where young Bear, then only 9 years old, shivers with cold and terror. It's his first real encounter with the wild, not by choice, but as a ritual imposed by his father. He thought it would make him a man, he recounts, as his hands unconsciously trace the outline of an old scar on his arm. "I spent the entire night vomiting from seasickness, crying when no one was watching. It was the first time I learned to hide my fear." The man who would one day become a symbol of bravery was learning his first and most enduring lesson, surviving not just the elements, but the crushing expectations surrounding him. The defining roar of the wind competes with Bear's racing heartbeat as he prepares for his parachute jump with the British Special Forces. What nobody knew was that 3 months earlier, during a secret training exercise, his parachute had partially failed. For 47 seconds, eternal and terrifying, he believed he would die. "I never shared this with my superiors," he confesses for the first time. "If I had, I would have been immediately discharged." With each subsequent jump, he would discreetly vomit minutes before, overwhelmed by traumatic flashbacks. This shocking revelation sheds new light on the famous parachuting accident that broke his back in 1996. It wasn't just bad luck, as he has always publicly claimed, but a direct consequence of an unconscious tremor caused by unprocessed trauma. The military hospital extends in an endless corridor of closed doors and oppressive silence. Inside one of the rooms, Bear, then 21, stared at the ceiling while doctors discussed whether he would walk normally again after fracturing 3 vertebrae in his fall. Those 18 hours before surgery were the darkest of his life, reveals a nurse who was present. He begged me not to let anyone in the room while he cried. He kept repeating that he had disappointed everyone, especially his father. The fear of appearing weak surpassed even the excruciating physical pain. Even in his most vulnerable moment, the need to maintain the untouched facade of strength remained. The camera captures the moment when Bear climbs Everest, seemingly triumphant. What viewers never saw were the unedited recordings where he just 100 meters from the summit, he breaks down in tears, physically exhausted and emotionally broken. "I wasn't climbing that mountain for myself," he now admits. "I was desperately trying to prove something to my father, who was dying of cancer at the time." A surprising revelation that recontextualizes his most celebrated achievement. The climb was not driven by personal ambition, but by a desperate search for validation from a man who had never shown approval. A corporate meeting room at Discovery Channel headquarters. Executives coldly discuss ratings while Bear sits in silence. "We need more blood, more danger," one says, sliding a new contract across the table. What the public never knew is that behind the scenes of apparent extreme danger in Man vs. Wild, there was a fierce conflict between the integrity Bear wished to maintain and the increasingly sensationalist demands of the network. "There were moments when I felt like a gladiator in a modern arena," he confesses, "in the audience wanted blood, and the executives were willing to manufacture it." This tension culminated in a breaking point when, in 2007, it came to light that some dangerous situations were staged. The scandal that followed wasn't just a public relations crisis, it was the catalyst for the most transformative moment in Bear's life. Away from the cameras, locked in his home in Wales, he faced a profound existential crisis. "That was the moment I realized I had become a character, not a person," he reveals in a letter to his wife Shara, never before shared. "I was so concerned with appearing invulnerable that I became hollow inside." Confronted with the possibility of the end of his career, Bear did something he had never done before. He removed the mask. In a closed-door meeting with Discovery executives, he laid his cards on the table. Either the show would fundamentally change, honestly reflecting the challenges of survival, including moments of fear and failure, or he would leave. This decision marked not just a reinvention of his public persona, but a profound reconciliation with his private vulnerabilities. The Bear Grylls that the world knows today carries visible scars from his countless adventures, but it's the invisible scars that have truly shaped the man behind the legend. In a remote cabin in Scotland, far from the spotlight and expectations, he finally found a balance between the adventurer and the man, the character and the person. True survival, he concludes, in a moment of rare introspection, isn't about conquering the wild out there, but making peace with the wild shadows within. Are you enjoying this story, Man vs. Wild, Bear Grylls? Then help the channel with your subscription. Look, 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you are part of that group, take the chance and subscribe now. It's free, and that way you'll keep receiving amazing stories from TV shows we still miss. Oh, and don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. The camera slowly pulls away, revealing Bear sitting quietly by a lake, observing the reflection of mountains in the crystal clear waters. No survival knives, no audience, no performances. Just a man who, after a lifetime of facing the most extreme elements on the planet, finally found the courage to face his most difficult challenge, being simply human, with all the fragilities and strength that implies. And perhaps, this is his most extraordinary adventure.